Well, ladies and gentlemen, out of all the people to roast Ubisoft, I didn't think it was going to be Baldur's Gate 3 developers. To be honest with you, that was a interesting headline when I saw this on That Park Place, and I decided, you know what? Let's talk about it, because what was said is actually very interesting, and it goes back to some of our initial conversations surrounding Ubisoft back when Skull and Bones, before Skull and Bones even came out. One of the executives, I forgot which position he was in, was saying that you essentially need to be comfortable not owning your games. And then what ended up happening was Ubisoft gamers ended up being comfortable not owning their games because they didn't buy them.
I think I want my money back.
Now, I find it to be absolutely hilarious, the fallout from that particular statement, and now we have come full circle when, according to this headline, Baldur's Gate 3 developer blasts Ubisoft's sales strategy and says if gamers should get used to not owning their games, then developers must get used to not having jobs. What an absolute destruction, and I can't wait to get into it. So let's get into this article, guys, from That Park Place. But of course, before we do, if you are new here, just consider hitting that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it, and like the video to push us out into that YouTube algorithm. So it says Michael Deuce, the director of publishing for Baldur's Gate 3 and his developer Larian Studios, blasted Ubisoft in the wake of a number of blunders, including the Prince of Persia: The Last Crown, which is rumored to have seen his developer team disbanded after not meeting sales expectations. It was rumored earlier this week that Ubisoft disbanded its team at Ubisoft Montpellier, which, by the way, we actually made a video on that before. We did it yesterday, so if you missed it, please go check out that video. But yes, apparently the studio was seen moving around and shuffling around, items from offices and whatnot, because the team has been essentially disbanded, or at least moved to other projects within Ubisoft that are more important. And no matter how much they begged to try to make more DLC, at the end of the day, it just wasn't worth it. It wasn't profitable, and Ubisoft actually made the right move there to disband it and focus on something more important. So then it says, however, Ubisoft management were unconvinced, especially given the game's sales were below expectations, and denied it 2 more DLCs to attempt to try to get it to come back. So in reaction to the coverage of the team allegedly being disbanded by PC Gamer, Dowse shared his opinion on X and said the last notable game on their platform was arguably Far Cry 6 in 2021. The Crew, Mirage, and Avatar came in 2023 and didn't perform well. So you can assume subscriptions were at a lull when POP released in 2024, which means people wouldn't be launching their store all too much. Now, one thing I keep saying all the time, and nobody seems to want to have this conversation, is the fact that subscription services are absolutely killing retail sales of gaming. People don't want to admit that these subscription services, while the idea is good in theory, they are not profitable. It takes an insane amount of subscribers to make them profitable, considering the amount of games that they have on these services. And think about it, if people were to buy these games separately, the amount of money they will make is astronomical. The fact of the matter is, people have now gotten comfortable actually not owning their games, which is what you said you wanted in the first place. You thought that them getting comfortable not owning their games was going to mean more money for you with this subscription service. But the actual fact is, people just don't even want to bother, right? They'll subscribe if they see something interesting that they want to play, and then they'll unsubscribe until something else interesting comes along. But you don't offer enough value to want to keep people there for the long haul, right? You don't offer enough value to keep people as a 12-month subscriber, right? You just don't have that level of power. The Xbox and the PlayStation, they do it because they force people to pay in order to play online. That's the only reason why people have PS Plus. I'm telling you right now, if you could play for free online on PlayStation, most people wouldn't have PS Plus. The only reason they have it is because of that feature. That is literally it. Not for the games or anything. Those are just extra. So at the end of the day, you trying to make a subscription service in a world where everybody has one and you don't do anything to stand out, yeah, needless to say, people are really not going to buy your crap. He then added, if it had released on Steam, oh, this is a big one. If it had released on Steam, not only would it have been a market success, but there would likely be a sequel because the team are so strong. It's such a broken strategy. The hardest thing is to make an 85 plus game. It is much, much easier to release one. It just shouldn't be done as it was. Now, I agree with this 100%, man. This game, if it was released on Steam, this game probably would have been a success. But unfortunately, Ubisoft is a little bit more stubborn when it comes to that. Next, Dowse, and again, I believe it's on Steam now. I think at the beginning it wasn't released on Steam, but it's released on Steam now, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, we could check SteamDB. Let me see. Yeah, so Lost Crown is on Steam officially, and it didn't even do that well. It didn't even do that well, right? 1,400 concurrent players, not bad for this kind of a game, but ultimately it didn't do that well. It seems like it's getting a little bit of a spike because of people talking about it, but ultimately it's not enough. It's just not enough to save a game like this. Next, Dow's torched Ubisoft and specifically the company's director of subscriptions, Philippe Tremblay, for his comments back in January, where he said gamers need to get comfortable not owning their games. He said one of the things we saw is that gamers are used to a little bit like DVD, having and owning their games. That's the consumer shift that needs to happen. They got comfortable not owning their CD collection or DVD collection. That's a transformation that's been a bit slower to happen in games. As gamers grow comfortable in that aspect, you don't lose your progress. If you resume your game at another time, your progress file is still there. That's not been deleted. You don't lose what you've built in the game or your engagement with the game. So it's about feeling comfortable with not owning your game. That is an absolute fucking bullshit strategy. I'm telling you right now, gamers love physical media. All right. Even though the market, trust me, I get it. The market absolutely showcases that digital sales are number one, but gamers who buy digitally will still buy the game physically if they enjoy the game that much and have it in their collection. Gamers are inherently collectors. Even at the most minuscule level, they like to collect things. That's why achievement progress is a thing, because people like to collect achievements and showcase those trophies and whatnot. So you are trying to turn this into something where it benefits you, but ultimately the market and with the consumer shift is going in the other direction. And instead of following the flow of the consumer shift, you are trying to take it and put a wall in front of it and say, no, 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 go back the other way in the direction that I want you to go back into. That's not happening no matter how much you try to make it a thing. You can try to scream to the top of your lungs to try to make it a thing, but it's not going to work. Dow's wrote, if the statement gamers should get used to not owning their games is true because of a specific release strategy, sub above sales, then the statement developers must get used to having jobs if they make critically acclaimed games. Platform strategy above title sales is also true. And that just isn't sensible, even from a business perspective. I agree. They should not be focusing on trying to push people into the subscription service, because that is what they're doing. Look at Star Wars Outlaws. They made Star Wars Outlaws ridiculously expensive because they knew that they were trying to get people to go to the subscription service. They were offering the Ultimate Edition, the $140 edition, for like $15.99 or $19.99 on Ubisoft Plus. And that's their strategy. Hey, look at this big number that we're going to scare you with, and then we're going to offer you this small number that you can give us monthly that will add up more to the bigger number, but it doesn't matter because monthly it's a smaller number and you like smaller numbers, right? That's the strategy, and it doesn't work. It hasn't worked for anybody. It hasn't worked for Game Pass. Game Pass hasn't been successful. It hasn't worked for most of Hollywood's streaming services. It hasn't worked for Ubisoft, and it hasn't worked for EA. It hasn't worked for any of these companies. It's an absolute joke that they continue to do this, and yet still they continue to do it because they do not care about what gamers are telling them. They only want to push gamers in the direction that they want gamers to be in, which is give us money every single month and pretend that you are enjoying yourself while you don't own the games that you pay for. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Hope you did enjoy it. If you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it if you get to like the video, comment, let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.